Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. In this video we are going to learn about memory management from operating system. Okay, so in the previous days, computer programmers used to use the uniprogramming system than multiprogramming system. So in a monoprogramming or uniprogramming system, the main memory is divided into two parts. So one for the operating system and another for the user. Okay, so here one part is for the operating system and another part is for the job of the user. So here uh, a job is executed by the user. Okay, so in the case of the uniprogramming, only one program is allowed to execute. So this is the operating system part. In the main memory we have the, so it is divided into two parts, that is operating system and for the user process. Okay, so here the user is going to execute a job in the user process. Okay, in the user space he is going to execute the job. Okay, and in the case of uniprogramming, only one program is allowed to execute. So after a program finishes the execution, then another program is allowed to enter the main memory for execution. So like that, only one process is allowed to execute here. Okay, so after a job or process finishes the execution completely, then it allows the another process to execute. So here one drawback is, so the throughput is very less, right? So here the CPU is sitting idle, so it is only executing one job. Okay, and here some part of the user process is also wasted. Okay, so user process is also wasted here, right? Suppose here the total main memory space is, let us think as 2 MB. Okay, so but the user process is only of 1 MB, then the remaining 1 MB will be wasted. Okay, so until the process which entered the memory executes completely, so no other process is allowed to execute, right? So it is using only 1 MB of the main memory and the remaining part is here wasted. Okay, so here these are the two drawbacks of the uniprogramming system. But in the case of the multiprogramming system, the user space is divided into number of partitions. Okay, so here the user space is divided into multiple number of partitions in the case of the multiprogramming system, right? So it is divided into multiple partitions and each partition is for one process. So we can load one process in the each and every partition, right? Like process 1, P2, P3. So these are the process which are executed in the main memory. Okay, so the task of subdivision is carried out dynamically by the operating system and this task is known as the memory management. Okay, so in the case of the multi-programming, since so we are executing multiple number of jobs or process in the main memory. So this is the main memory, right? Whole main memory. So in this part we are executing the process. So the efficient memory management is possible with the multi-programming. A few processes are in main memory, the remaining processes are waiting for input output and the processor will be idle. So thus memory needs to be allocated efficiently to pack as many processes into the memory as possible. Okay, so this is about the memory management, the introduction to memory management. So let us see how the memory management is going on in our system currently. Okay, so here, so a program must be brought from the disk into the memory and placed within a process for it to be run. So before going to know about the memory management, let us know the different storage devices in our system. Okay, so if you want to execute any program, okay, or else if you want to play a music file, or if you want to take a printout, so if you want to perform any task in your computer, the program must be in the main, it will be done by CPU. Okay, and that particular program must be there in the main memory. Okay, suppose I want to play a music file, then that music file will be fetched from the hard disk, right? Hard disk is the secondary storage device, so it will be fetched from the secondary storage device to the main memory, and the CPU will execute it. That means CPU will play that one for the user. Okay, so that one we are going to know here. So this is the memory, the different types of storage devices here. CPU, okay, cache, main memory and secondary memory. So these are the different types of storage devices. Okay, and these devices will work based on the instructions given by the CPU. Okay, suppose I want to execute, see, I want to play a music file here. So the music file will be there in the hard disk, right? In the hard disk, the file will be there. So every program will be there in the secondary storage devices, right? So here, if you see the hierarchy, so it will be from, so this secondary memory is having larger capacity than main memory, and main memory is having the larger capacity than cache memory, right? And cache memory will be having the larger capacity than registers. So registers will be present in the inside CPU, right? So registers will be there inside the CPU. So it will hold only some bits of data, sorry, some bytes of data. Okay, compared to cache memory, it is having the less capacity. Okay, so here secondary memory is having the larger capacity compared to all the memory, I mean, storage devices. Okay, so if you want to execute any of the given program, then it must be there in the present in the main memory. But main memory is having the capability of storing less amount of information, right? So that's why it will be kept in the secondary memory. Okay, suppose I want to play a music file, then it will be fetched from the secondary memory to the main memory, and the CPU will start executing it in the main memory. Okay, and if you want to know about the cache memory means, so it will come in the computer organization part. Okay, so here we are taking in the memory management techniques, we are considering only the main memory and secondary memory, and we are not considering about the cache. Okay, so you can neglect the cache memory here, right? So this part will come in the computer architecture. Okay, here I want to play the music file, and it is fetched from secondary storage device to the main memory, and CPU will play that file for the user. Okay, and suppose if you are the cache memory means it will hold the list of frequently accessed items. Okay, and similarly registers also. So suppose if you want to perform any arithmetical logical operations, then it will be done in the registers that is present in the CPU, and it is having the less amount of capacity compared to the cache, main memory and secondary memory. Okay, so like this, so we're going to perform the execution. So that's only here it is given. So program must be fetched from the disk to the memory and placed within a process to run. Okay, so main memory and registers are only storage CPU can access directly, right? So main memory, and so it can access the registers and cache memory directly. The CPU can access cache memory and registers, cache memory, main memory and registers directly. Register access in one CPU clock or less, main memory can take many cycles. Okay, and cache memory sits between the main memory and CPU registers. The protection of memory required to ensure the correct operation. So cache sits between the main memory and the CPU registers. Okay, so these about the different types of memory storage devices in the system. And registers is very costly compared to cache memory, and cache memory is costly compared to main memory, and main memory is costly compared to the secondary memory. Okay, so if we take this, so storage capacity wise, secondary memory is having the larger capacity. Suppose if you take in the cost wise, registers is very costly and it stores less amount of information. Okay. So next is the base and limit registers. Okay, so a pair of base and limit registers define the logical address. So here, so main memory is given here. System is running in the main memory. So some part of main memory is allocated for the operating system, and in the remaining partition, the multiple number of processes are executing here. So to increase the system performance, we are using the multi-programming, right? In the multi-programming, in the main memory, multiple number of partitions will be there, and in each partition, one process will be executing. And if a CPU wants to execute any process, so it will be loaded to the main memory, and it is given the, so it will be loaded in the base register. Okay, suppose the first process is filled here, right? First process is filled, and if you are loading the second process, so it will calculate the, so suppose it is having some uh, so the association of program instructions and data to the actual physical memory is called as the address binding. And there are three schemes for the address binding. So these are the compile time binding, and load time binding, and execution time binding. Okay, so it is the compile time binding is done by before the loading of program into the main memory. Okay, so the compiler is going to load the program to the main memory with the help of the operating system manager for the address binding. Okay, so the program is loaded to the main memory at the compile time, and the compiler is responsible for loading the program to the main memory with the help of the operating system manager. It generates the logical address. So logical address means um, the CPU generated address is called as the logical address. Suppose a program is residing in the secondary memory, and it must be fetched to the main memory for execution. Okay, let the size of the uh, particular program in secondary disk be 1 KB. So when you are loading to the main memory, the size of the particular program may change. Okay, so the so that so that one is called as the logical address. Okay, so when the program is fetched from secondary memory, the size of the particular program may change. Suppose I'm executing a C program, so then it may include some of the routines and library files or header files, right? So due to that one, so the size of the program may increase to 3 KB. Okay, just I'm assuming. So this is called as a logical address. So the extra information added to the actual size which is in the secondary memory. So this one is called as the logical address space, that is a CPU generated address space. Here the instruction translated to the absolute address, and the code is compiled here. It works with the logical address. It is static. It is also called as static address binding. And second one is a load time address binding. It generates the physical address, and it is done after loading the program into the main memory. The absolute address is converted to the relocatable address. So instructions are loaded to the main memory here. It is also called as a static binding, and in some operating system it is also called as a dynamic binding. So it will work as both a static binding and as a dynamic binding, and it is done completely by the operating system memory manager by itself. So in the case of the compile time binding, so it is taking the compiler is taking the help of OS, but here only the operating system memory manager is doing the loading itself. And next one is coming to the execution time or dynamic address binding. So address binding will be postponed even after loading the program to the main memory. So the program will keep on changing the location in the memory till the time of program execution. So the execution time is done by the processor. It generates the dynamic absolute address. and it helps in the execution from memory instructions or executed by CPU. Okay, so here the routines are loaded from the disk to the main memory whenever it is called, right? So it is not loaded before the before running. So whenever the program is running, so it will be loaded directly from the routines are directly loaded from the disk to the main memory. So this is how the dynamic loading will work. Dynamic address binding or execution time is working. Okay. So here the main advantage of dynamic loading is that an unused routine is never loaded. So we can obtain the better memory space utilization. This scheme is particularly useful when large amounts of code are needed to handle frequently occurring cases. Okay, so in the previous example, we have learned that suppose the program occupies 1 KB in secondary storage, but it occupies hundreds of KB in the main memory. So because some routines and header files like stdio.h will be loaded in the main memory to execute that program. So generally this loading is done at the time of execution. So we can say that meaning of dynamic loading in a single statement as the dynamic loading a routine is not loaded until it is called. So whenever it is called, the dynamic loading will work. So here in the diagram, you can see the step by step of a user program linking the library files before the execution is said to be static linking. So execution is said to be static linking. At the time of execution is said to be dynamic linking. So you can observe this linking in this given diagram. So most OS supports only static linking. We can say that definition of dynamic linking in a statement is the linking is postponed until the execution time. So this is about the compile time, load time and execution time. So next one is the logical versus physical address space. So the logical address means it is generated by the CPU, also referred to as virtual address. And physical address, so address seen by the memory unit is called as the physical address. That means the address allocated in the main memory is called as the physical address. So the memory management unit, so the hardware device that maps the virtual to physical address. Okay. So in memory management unit scheme, the value in the relocation register is added to every address generated by the user process at the time it is sent to memory. The user program deals with logical address. It never sees the real physical address. Okay. So here, so we're having the two types of address, that is logical and physical address space. So in the logical address space, it is generated by the CPU. That means suppose if you want to execute any program, so it must be fetched from the hard disk to the main memory. Okay, so the size of the particular program which is fetched from the secondary memory to the main memory is taken as the logical address. Okay, so that's why it is taken as it is generated by the CPU. Okay, and physical address, so physical address means the address seen by the memory unit. That means so in the main memory, the some part will be there in the operating system and the remaining part different programs will be executing, right? So address seen by the memory unit, that is if a program is loaded to the particular space in the main memory, so this is the physical address. So it may be 10 to 120, right? So in this part the P1 is executing. So this is the physical address of the particular program P1. Okay. In memory management unit scheme, the value in the relocation register is added to every address generated by the user program. Okay. So user program deals with the logical address. It never sees the physical address. So now let us take a clarity about the logical address and physical address. Okay, so here CPU is generating a logical address with the size 346, and in the relocation register, so the address is given as 14,000. Okay, so main memory management unit is going to add the relocation register with the logical address to obtain the physical address space. Okay, so here, so by adding the 14,000 with 346, we are getting the physical address in the main memory as 14,346. What is meant by a relocatable address? Okay, an address that is to be adjusted to reflect into which a program is loaded for execution. So it depends on the runtime considerations here. Okay, so here relocation register, it is taken as 14,000. That means so here, so some part of operating system will be filled with the OS, and the remaining part, so the multiple number of jobs will be executing, right? So here all the jobs are filled here. Okay, so up to 14,000. So all the jobs are filled here. Okay, so the CPU is generating a logical address that is 346. So in the relocation register, so the address is given as 14,000. So according to relocatable address, so it is an address that is to be adjusted to reflect the actual place in the main memory, right? So the logical address will be having the different place in the secondary memory. So we cannot store this particular program as it is in the physical memory, right? So for that one, so we are adjusting we're adjusting the particular program in the main memory to reflect the actual place in the main memory into which a program is loaded for execution here. So the total space, total size of the particular program is 346. So it will be loaded to the 1400. That is the limit address here. So we are going to add this one, and we can get the, so this part is filled by the new process here. Okay, generated by the CPU. And the next one is swapping. So before going to swapping, also let us know about the logical address and physical address. Okay, so logical address means it is generated by the CPU, and it will be dynamic. That means it will be keep on changing, and it will access the logical address directly. Okay, so a user can view the logical address, and logical address space means a set of logical address is set of logical address of the program is called as a logical address space. Coming to the physical address, so the location of the main memory is called as the physical address, and it is only one, and it will be constant like 14,000. So it is a constant, right? It won't change. Okay, but the logical address will change, right? So it is going to fetch the a program from the secondary memory to the main memory, right? So at that time CPU will generate the logical address, including the actual size of the program. So suppose if I am loading a program from secondary memory to the main memory, okay, so the C program is having the size of so here 300 MB, okay, and 46 MB is the header files and library files of the particular program. So this is the CPU generated logical address, right? Okay, and it is allocated some space in the main memory for execution. So actually the program with the size 346 in the secondary memory will be stored in a different place, and it will be stored in the physical memory in different place. So we are going to actually adjust that particular program in the main memory by the relocation register here. Okay, so that's why the logical address will be keep on changing. Suppose I am fetching another program here, so then the logical address will be changing for the next process also, right? And the physical memory will be constant, and the user can view the logical address, but he cannot he cannot view the physical address. And swapping, A process can be swapped temporarily out of the memory to backing store and then brought back to the main memory for execution. So major part of swap time is transfer time. That is total time. Transfer time is directly proportional to the amount of memory swapped here. Okay, so the modified versions of swapping are found in many operating systems like Unix, Linux, and Windows operating system. So system maintains a ready queue of ready to run process which have memory images on disk. So here we can see the swap in and swap out. Okay, so there will be some frequent swap in and swap out between the secondary storage device and the main memory. Okay, since the main memory is having the limited amount of space, okay, it can't execute all the process. So whatever the process which are important for execution, so it will be kept in the main memory and the remaining part will be stored in the secondary storage device. Okay, so if the process is not needed, then it will be swapped out of the main memory to the secondary storage device. So here the process P1 is not necessary in the main memory, so it will be swapped out to the secondary storage device. And if the main memory needs to execute the process P2, it will be taken to the main memory for execution, that is swapping into the main memory for execution, right? So this is called as a swapping, and major part of the swapping is used by Linux. You are ready to run process which have the memory images on the disk. Okay, a ready queue about the process which are swapped out, right? Suppose a process P1 is executing here and it is having an input output here, so it will be swapped out to the secondary storage device. Okay, and P2 is taken for execution, right? And after the P1 finishes the input output, then it will be taken back to the OS and it will be executed, right? So like that, for that type of process, it will be maintaining a ready queue here. And in the case of the swapping of the process and partitioning the operating system into multiple number of partitions and allocating the process to the main memory, allocating the swapping out the process to the backing store, so all these things will be done by the operating system. And if you want to view this directly in your computer or mobile, so I will tell an example. If you go to the settings and if you see in the phone settings, if you check the apps, the internal memory of the phone, so then you can view the operating system, the Android OS running in your phone, and the different programs, that is apps executing in your phone. Okay, you can view that one in your phone settings. Okay, so this partitioning of operating system and the multiple process, right, is here we are seeing in the picture format, but you can directly view in the settings, in the phone settings. Okay, suppose if your phone is having the 8 GB of capacity, internal capacity, then the 3 GB will be allotted to the operating system and the remaining 5 GB will be allotted for the applications to execute. Okay, so you can view that one directly, and the how much part of size is allotted for each and every application, which application is executing is taking a more size, so which is more lengthy and which is consuming high amount of data, so it will be seen in your settings, right? So next one is the contiguous allocation. So here the main memory is usually into two partitions, that is a resident operating system and user process.